My parents live next door to a small red house. Our backyard faces the side of their house, which has a deck and 2 large windows. Around front, there were always at least 3 cars parked outside. Oddly enough, in the 10 years I lived there, I never saw anyone enter or leave. Once when I was 12, I saw shadows thrown against the far wall that was visible through one of the windows. When my sister moved out, I took her bedroom, a large open converted space in the basement, which had a door and an outdoor stairwell, which led to the backyard. The door had a small window on it, which my sister had covered with a Pulp Fiction poster. I redecorated and replaced the poster with some of those sheer half-curtain things. The way the room was set up, if I was lying in bed or sitting on the couch, I was facing the door. When I first moved down there, I noticed that sometimes at night, I would hear the sound of leaves crunching in the stairwell. I chalked it up to being my cat, who liked to roam the neighborhood. I really had no reason to suspect otherwise until a few weeks later. One night when my parents were away on business, my boyfriend and I were sitting on the couch smoking. Suddenly, he got really stiff and was just staring out the window. I asked him what was wrong, and he said, "I just saw a camera flash." I kind of just laughed it off and chalked it up to him being high. Who would want a picture of 2 people getting stoned? Still, the seeds of paranoia had been sown, and it wasn't easy to get settled down for sleep that night. I kept looking at the gap between the curtains. There was no light at the bottom of the stairs, so if someone really was down there, I'd be none the wiser. At around 3, I heard the distinct sound of leaves under heavy boots. Definitely not a cat. I don't know what made me decide the best course of action was for me, standing all of 5'3", to confront a potential stalker myself. I didn't even put shoes on. I just threw the door wide open. There was no one in the stairwell, so I ran up the stairs and into the backyard. Suddenly, there was a man in his mid-40s, maybe 6 feet tall, and wearing one of those mechanic jumpsuits. He was holding a chunky, outdated digital camera. We stood there for a second, just looking at each other. He seemed quite confused when he saw me. After what felt like an eternity, I remembered how to speak. "What the hell are you doing?" My voice seemed to startle him, and he immediately turned and ran through my backyard, towards the red house and into the dark. After that, I didn't see any strange flashes of light or hear any crunchy leaf noises. It really freaks me out to think how many nights he could have just been standing there in the dark watching me. During my senior year in college, I was following a particular politician, and I was going to rallies and other events in my spare time. Me and my friends were having a ball, and we loved being involved. One particular rally I went to was in the city. My friends and I took a train in, and we enjoyed ourselves. On the way back home to our university, I noticed a guy sitting across from us that I had recognized from campus. He was pretty cute, and I remember seeing him around, as we must have had some mutual friends. I said hi to him, and to my delight, he also recognized me. We spoke for a few minutes and discovered we were both at the same rally. By the end of the train ride, he asked me for my phone number. I remember thinking, wow, a cute guy and we have some things in common. I gave him my number, but I didn't think much past that. About a week later, I received a text from him, and he asked me if I'm free this weekend and if I would be interested in meeting up and having a drink. This particular time was during a break from school, so not many people were around. For whatever reason, I had chose not to go home. In my naive mind at the time, I thought, great, I have my place all to myself. I meet him at our local bar and we have a few drinks. It was pretty quiet for a Friday as it was break time, and after an hour or two, we decided to leave. I invited him back to my place for a bottle of wine and to hang out some more. He wound up staying the night and leaving in the morning, but when I woke up, for whatever reason, I had an uneasy feeling. Nothing bad had necessarily happened per se, I just didn't like how things had went. I felt like he was so serious, not laughing or smiling the entire evening. Although he always had a drink in his hand, I realized he wasn't really drinking them. The entire evening, he was kind of shifty and nervous. The only way I can describe it is like he was on a mission and waiting for something. These were all red flags to me. I felt bad, but I was just not interested in this guy. To my relief, he didn't text me for a while after that, and I assume he came to the same realization that it just wasn't a good match. That is until about 2 to 3 weeks later. He writes me a message telling me that he's been busy but really wants to meet this weekend and catch up. This particular weekend, my older sister was having a large party for her husband's birthday at their house a few towns away. A few of my friends and I were going, and there was always a large group of people there at the parties, about 50 to 60. Now let me be clear, these parties were not your typical get wasted and stay up till the cops get called type of college parties. They're more of an adult type party, given my sister's husband is fairly older than us. Don't get me wrong, there was plenty of drinking going on. They were very fun, just more of an adult type barbecue with day drinking. Me and my 2 girlfriends were going to spend the night, as I was going to drive there, but obviously we would be drinking. The party started early at 12 p.m. Against my better judgment, I invited him to the party, thinking it couldn't hurt. I gave him the address and time. He seemed very interested and agreed to come. The day of the party was really fun, and my friends and I were having a blast. I must admit, I did have a sinking feeling, and I was not looking forward to seeing this guy now. Then to my absolute and utter relief, I get a text from him saying that he would be unable to make it. I could finally relax and enjoy the party. By about 12 a.m., everyone is exhausted from a day of full-on drinking, and the party is winding down. Most of all the guests have gone home except my friends and I and a few other guys, friends of my sister's husband who were also sleeping there, and of course, my sister and her husband. My sister has 1 guest room which was taken and a fully carpeted and finished basement. We had various blankets and pillows, and we were all going to sleep down there on the couches, or pretty much anywhere you could lay. As I'm about to go down to the basement and get ready for sleep, the man walks through the front door. No knocking, no text, no anything. Just confidently walks straight in the house. I don't know why, but my initial reaction was fear. I pretended to be happy to see him though, and I gave him a small hug. I asked him why he was there, to which he never gave a real response. All the lights were out and everyone was gone. I was gesturing around and hinting at him that the party was over and that he had missed it. I felt bad that he had made the effort and decided to speak with him for a few minutes before I went to bed. We talked. I told him I was going to get ready for bed and that I'm sorry he missed the party. He just says, "Yeah, that's fine. This dude is just not getting the hint to leave." So I leave the room and I go to change my clothes and set myself up a bed, brush my teeth, etc. I'm just hoping that he will leave, but I don't hear any movement from the other room. When I come back to the living room to check and see if he's actually still there, he is, and he's asleep on the couch. I obviously found this strange, but I just assumed it was late and that he must have been really tired. He didn't seem out of place as there were various other people sleeping at the house as well. I went to the basement and I found myself a place to sleep on the floor. About 30 minutes to an hour later, I'm lying on the floor still awake, thinking about how weird it is that he showed up. It's pitch black and there are a few other people sleeping there, including my friends. I hear someone in the dark slowly coming down the stairs. I see they're holding a cell phone light to guide them. As the figure reached the bottom of the steps, I see that it's him. Now, he has never been to this house. That isn't a nice suburban area, not a frat house, and I did immediately think it's weird that he would randomly be walking through a house of a person that he doesn't know. I pretended to be asleep. As I lie there frozen, I suddenly feel a tap on my shoulder. He doesn't say a word. He is over me and trying to wake me up. I don't move and I pretend to be asleep. I lay there in the dark silence and I'm listening for his footsteps to walk away. I can tell he is holding a light over me. Then, with no warning, this man takes a step back and with his boot on, kicks me full force in the face. I'm not talking about a little tap with his foot to wake me. No, full force boot kicks me directly in my face. My face goes numb. I didn't know what just happened. I can feel blood running down my nose. I open my eyes and I look at him and all I can remember saying is something like, "Why did you do that?" He just stared at me blankly and said nothing, turned around and walked back up the steps. I laid there paralyzed in fear. My heart is beating 1,000,000 times a minute. I don't know how long it was until I garnished the courage to get up, but eventually I army crawl in the dark over to my friend. Another man near her wakes up as well, and I explained what happened. We were all half drunk, dazed, and confused to say the least. I can't stay in this basement. I know he left, but I was just too scared. My friend and the other guy offered to take me upstairs so I can sleep in my sister's room. So I go into my sister's room and lay next to her bed on the floor, and I shut the door behind me, but unfortunately there was no lock. I don't know how, but eventually I fell asleep. At some point, it's now morning, I wake up to my sister leaning over me. She asks, "What happened to your face and why are you in my room?" Right as I'm about to answer her, my friend who had helped me the night before comes flying into the room. She tells us that the guy is still there and asleep on the couch. She runs out and I can hear her screaming at him to get up and get out. I hear him arguing back and asking where I am. My friend tells him that I've left, and he begins arguing that he knows my car is still there. I have no idea how he knew which car was mine, as he had never seen it before, and that I hadn't taken my purse. Eventually he leaves. After that night, he wrote me a message a few days later, as if nothing had happened, asking me to hang out again. I blocked him, and I have never heard from him again after that. I graduated only 2 months later, and thankfully never seen him on campus. To this day, I have no idea why he kicked me in the face, and how he had the balls to stay after that. I have learned my lesson about giving out my phone number. About 2 years ago, I used to work part-time at a popular pizza chain as a delivery driver. I had a full-time job during the day, so the shift at the pizza place would be from 6 p.m. to 12 p.m. I enjoyed the job for the fact that I made good money and it was easy, but I hated working at night because it was dangerous. One night we got a call 30 minutes before closing for a delivery in the worst part of town. I was stuck taking the order since my manager sent the other driver home early because it was a slow night. I hurriedly headed out to deliver the pizza. About 20 minutes later, my GPS said I had arrived. I couldn't read the house number as it was pitch dark and none of the houses had their porch light on. As a safety precaution, I called the customer to ask if they could turn on their light. He didn't answer until like the 6th ring. He tells me his house has 2 trash bins next to the curb, and that the light is broken so he can't turn it on. He hangs up the phone. I start walking through the front yard to the front door when I see a man staring at me through the window. I yell out hello to him, but no reaction. He doesn't even move to open the door. I'm getting goosebumps now and I decide to turn back around and go to the car. I call the customer again to come get his pizza from my car. He tells me in a slow, creepy voice to ignore his roommate, and he said that the door is unlocked and if I could take the pizza to the basement. As I'm on the phone, I could make out a small light from the window. The man that was staring at me earlier was on the phone talking to me. I hung up and took off. By the time I got back to the restaurant, phones were turned over, so any complaints would have to wait until the next day. I'm not delivering to any basements, and I'm taking your pizza home for dinner.